Loyal viewers, hello once again. It's your good friend here at Games Wild Elf 26, folks. Remember, like and subscribe if you haven't already. Alright, folks. In this video, I got a couple of points. And hold on a second. Yes, getting to the couple of points, folks. Not the point of my Master Sword from Zelda 2. No. I kid. But, no, what I was going to be talking about was a Super Game Boy adapter. Now, some of you that enjoy Super Nintendo machines, official ones, vintage ones, or the retro brand new console clones, and this video is specific about those for a very good reason, folks. You see, with console clones, and I'm going to take the game out here to make a point. This is Centipede and Millipede for the Game Boy system. It's actually a Super Game Boy cartridge. It's got the logo on it. So it's actually got pre-colors because of the Super Game Boy connectivity. And there's some sort of two-player modes and alternate two-player modes with the controllers that you can only access through Super Game Boy. But let me put Centipede and Millipede. There we are, Centipede and Millipede. And right here in the corner, in case you didn't see it, folks, that's the Super Game Boy logo, the compatibility logo. But what I'm getting on about when it comes to the Super Game Boy adapter, which I often use in my Hyperkin Superboy S portable, which is kind of funny to play Super Game Boy on Superboy. But these are very important. Also as important as, say, a Game Genie. If you have a Game Genie is very important for your vintage system or your new retro clone system. In the case of the clone systems, the new retro clone systems, they're not made by the actual game company. The Super Game Boy adapter, if it plays, that is to say, if it loads up when you turn it on and you get the Super Game Boy title screen pop up, it should then load up the game title screen for whatever game you have plugged into it. And then you play it like normal on your television through your console clone. But if your console clone is not a reader, and you really want to have a reader, if it's not a reader, then unfortunately it's probably a ripper. And if it's a ripper, you'll be stuck at the Super Game Boy title screen and nothing will progress, because what it does is the ripper clones, and let's say the Retron 5, the Hyperkin Retron 5, Super Retron 5, because it can patch, do translation patches and all that, well, you can't do that to an actual cartridge. So that's like your first clue that the Super Retron 5 is in fact a ripper. It rips the game, it copies it, and because of the nature of the Super Game Boy adapter, what it does is it copies the adapter's program. It cannot access the game. It's only copying one game. That's what it's programmed to do. And so that's how it shows you that the clone system that you may be playing it on, if it refuses to play this no matter what, no matter how much cleaning or putting it back in, repositioning it, if it refuses to identify and you know it's a good Game Boy cartridge, then your clone system, unfortunately, is a ripper. It's the same way with Game Genie. If you have the Game Genie, which goes in between the machine and a game, you put a game on top of the Game Genie, You'll get the Game Genie title screen. You'll even get the code screen where you can put in your Game Genie codes. And if you put in the correct codes and then, hit start, begin the enhanced gaming, your game should play normal with the cheats noticeably working. If that does not happen, if all you get is the Game Genie screen and the code screen and then nothing, and you clean the whether it be an NES cartridge or Super NES cartridge or a Sega Genesis cartridge, well, friends, I hate to tell you, but that's most likely a Ripper clone system. It will not acknowledge your game, but it does acknowledge only the Game Genie. This is also the same with Pro Action Replay and a couple of consoleized portables too that they've done clones of for Game Boy, because there was not a Game Genie but a Game Shark made for Game Boy, and you can test this out the same way with those. Same difference. If the game runs normal with the Game Shark codes, hey, that's great, But if all you get is the Game Shark interaction and it does not load the actual game no matter what, probably a Ripper. So I hope I've helped you identify whether or not your clone system is indeed a safe, reads your cartridges like the actual hardware does, or if it's a nefarious, horrible, an evil Ripper. All right, folks. In the comments, tell me what clone consoles that you suspect of being a ROM Ripper, or that you know for a fact are, based on how it treated your Game Genie or Super Game Boy adapter. All right, folks. Yep. Us retro gamers got to look after each other and keep physical media alive, folks. Physical media is staggeringly important now more than ever. And thankfully, companies like Evercade are keeping physical media not just alive and well, but they're celebrating physical media and their new equipment and new compilations, and in the case of some indie developers, brand new games. So yeah, look into the Evercade systems, both the consoles and the handhelds called the Evercades. They seem to be pretty quality for the most part, and they're from a company in United Kingdom who's made other products we probably know very well called Blaze. So Blaze makes the Evercade. All right, folks. I hope this information is somewhat helpful to you. And also, if you buy Chinese handhelds, if you're a retro person and you buy Chinese handhelds that imitate retro game systems and all, well then please, by all means, whether it's Anbernic or Powkiddy or Analog or whoever, or some company imitating any of those, make certain when you order it, research the handheld good. Make certain that it has a library of games already on it. Because if it does not, if it only has the setups, the files that you have to put your own games in, the problem with that, with the age verification protocols and mandates, at least for the ones here in the United States, I'm sure many countries now have this age verification nonsense, and it has nothing to do with protecting anybody young. It's just for extreme observation, extreme internet traffic, keeping watch on where you go, what sites you visit. It's kind of an introduction to red deep state internet. All right, folks. Keep those pearls of wisdom. Have a great day, and may the Triforce bless you all. All right. And subscribe if you haven't. Games Wild Elf 26, folks.